I'm resident of Collinwood for YouTube, Joel Saints. That's my buddy Alan Gallant. That's my buddy Patrick McCray. We're here to review the movie Hexen, or Haxan, whatever you want to call
Haxan.
it. Haxan,
Haxan.
yeah. Which is about the devil and witches and all that other cool stuff. Um, First of all, this is a silent film, but also very good score here by this movie. I think this is one of the best early scores I've ever heard, especially from a 1920s movie. What did you guys
Double
think of
five's
this?
got zero.
Yeah, what did you guys think of the score of this movie, Alan?
Wagnerian. Very,
Uh, there are a
it's
lot of public domain things
yes. Well, it's
out.
dense. It's a dense score, and it is sufficient for its subject matter, which is early to late medieval, um, view of witchery and what's evil and what's not, and where's the evil really seated, and all these wonderful things that sort of develop throughout the movie, the hour and 40 minutes of the movie. So yeah, I mean, I think it's entirely appropriate. It's very classical, and as Patrick says, there's a lot of public domain sort of classical music that you can use, and it's very much in the vein of a lot of silent films. And this was it's a mid-era silent film. 1919 to 1921, I think, is when it was
Yeah,
together.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's kind of mid-era.
exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
you expect kind of a for this kind of a dramatic uh, interpretation, you expect that kind of soundtrack, and it delivers. It does.
yeah. Patrick, what did you think of the soundtrack of this movie?
Um, they're really important for silent films, and we're lucky that so many of them have been preserved or that we have records of them. I mean, that's where the whole idea of the piano player came from. In fact, the piano was invented uh, with the uh, with the silent film by Thomas Edison,
Mm.
specifically so that he could have something to listen to, which was ironic because he was uh, Thomas Edison was deaf.
You
Um,
you're referring to of course, the Fender Rhodes Edison.
yeah, well,
Yeah.
sure. Who's that? Yeah, of course. Um, but my version. I don't know what you guys are have access to or whatever,
Mhm.
but the one I listened to was the music was done by somebody Keith Mansfield and KPM. Uh, that was what I got. Um, Hang on, let's see. And I just put some on in the background, which once you see the movie, you'll know is uh I think valuable. Here was I think the main theme. Let's see, maybe. Yeah. Um, I don't know what we're dealing with. I don't know where I'm going to. I don't like the things that life is showing me. Where am I
Uh
going to? Do you know?
oh. Rabbit.
Uh, Jewel, what's your favorite Diana Ross movie? Since we're talking about it,
I don't have a favorite Diana Ross movie. Um,
Get Out of This House.
I like mahogany, actually.
Mahogany. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Here we go. Now this was the opening theme to Haxan in the which is a piece of music the devil had commissioned in I think like 1968, and it works. It's very Carnaby Street,
It's
as the
Grateful
sign
Dead.
behind you indicates.
Yes.
I thought the music was fine. I had no. real knowledge of whether or not that was the official score, the one that's on there. It
Right.
could be anything. It's great when you can find them. Metropolis was finally released about 10 years ago with the score that was
With
written
the
for
real
it.
score, right?
And it's grand. It's really good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree. This sort of classical oriented music that was on my particular version of it, and I think the same one that Julie is pretty. I mean, it is pretty appropriate. I don't know if it was the original or not.
Well, so much of that stuff, if it's never going to match up completely unless it was written for the movie.
That's correct.
So if it is anything that's public domain or it's just it will match up enough that it kind of carries the mood. And I think psychologically we ignore the moments where it doesn't.
Doesn't quite, yeah.
Now I'll tell you a great game to play though, and I've sort of been doing it with this, is to take something like Yakety Sax by Boots Randolph and to put that against Cabinet of Dr. Caligari towards the end, or Nosferatu. It really changes the movie.
Yes.
Or like there's an Estonian composer named Arvo Pärt, or it's pronounced Pärt, P-A-R-T, with an umlaut over the A.
Yes.
The most serious music ever written. It's Arvo and his cello. And he's a serious man. If you turn the sound off on either Teletubbies or Three Stooges
and put
on Arvo Pärt in the background, wow.
Yeah.
It makes it look like it's some deeply political allegory. Julie, you should try it. I really mean it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I really like the way they shoot this movie. You have a really red sort of setting, sort of maybe hinting at the hell that is to come.
Oh, and the tinting.
The tinting. That was also
tinting of the red.
Yeah.
And you also have the transition to black and white in this movie as well. They did a really good job of the tinting from going to that to black and white to going from scene to scene. And the characters in this movie are really compelling, though it's a silent film. And reading it gives you that sense of sort of, because when they're talking about the witches, you instantly think about the Salem witch trials. You instantly think about that, and like, are these people just being wrongfully persecuted? And that's something the film sort of gets into too a bit with wrongful persecution. Well, this is what it is in this modern era. This is what it was, and they're getting into that in this movie too. Yeah, the devil is here for sure in this movie.
Yeah. I think that's really the point as the movie progresses, is what's the devil really having a good time with? And he's having a great time with the fact that they're torturing these old women and forcing them to make up stories about them being witches. And he's really having a good time with how the clergy fool this young girl into, pretending she's confessing some kind of spell cast in order to, make sure that this little girl doesn't end up on the street, kind of thing, and all of that. And he's having such a good time with his butter churn when they're doing things like that.
Portnoy complained a lot about that butter churn.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, Joel. He is making these girls come up with these old women come up with these stories.
Yeah.
If you spent much time with crones, as I have, you will know that they're kind of boring. And nothing is more valuable for the bon vivant crone than a good after dinner story. And they weren't going to come up with it on their own. So he was doing them a favor. They can then, after the stoning and, the massive stone is put on them, like Giles Quilby or Poon Quimsey or whoever it was in that Crucible thing.
Yes.
They when they're at a dinner party or something, or it's after an orgy or whatever they find themselves at,
You put their feet in a crusher, and they really come up with some amazing stories.
And it's good stuff.
Yeah,
And that's the thing. It's not this Chat GPT thing where they're just like putting things
right.
together. It's original. It's like I don't know where they came up with that, but I mean, even
Right.
the devil's a little like, okay, tell her to back
Wait a
off
minute.
because
Yeah,
I'm gonna be seeing this all night.
yeah.
Every time I close my eyes, I'm at the Cracker Barrel, but you know, all the catfish have braces on the plates. Well, that's happened, right?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No worries.
That's okay. You're worried you're going to go to hell because of the things I'm saying, Joel.
No, I'm already headed there, Patrick. It's okay. But yeah, I mean, this movie does a lot of really good things of showing you how people were toward women who they maybe didn't like, and had to make false confession. And yeah, you do have the devil at the center of it who's enjoying this little, because really what this movie does really expose is the evil of humanity and the evil of human beings.
Yes, it's not the evil is not the supernatural. The evil
right. It's your own choice. Stuff. It's the choice to do evil deeds.
Yeah.
And that's what Satan is enjoying most. It's watching.
He is pro-choice.
Yeah, he is totally pro-choice. Yeah, I mean, it's clear that the filmmakers have a harsh view of at least the clergy during the time period that they're talking about, the Middle Ages. Because these guys are, when she's telling the story about how she's flying around and the stuff that she's done and you know, kissing Satan's butt and all of this stuff, they're like, tell me more. It's almost like they're reading, you know, Hustler magazine or something while she's telling the story. They're getting off on it in some weird way. So the filmmaker is definitely going, look at this. You think, you know, you think it's only this, and we started with this, and we've talked to you about superstition as opposed to reality. Now here's what's real. Here's the inhumanity that is evil, and it's quite interesting for its time period, I think.
If Satan is the, as they say in Prince of Darkness, the anti-god.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that anti-god?
Yeah,
that got trademarked, went nowhere.
Yeah,
There were T-shirts and frisbees.
I know.
But anyway, this is all based on Pepsi and the Pepsi Challenge, and trying to pit them against each other.
Yes.
But if Satan is the anti-god, and if he's kind of like the adversary, that's what Satan means in Hebrews, adversary, and he's the opposite of everything, then when they're kissing his posterior, it must be delicious.
Yeah.
Because that's the opposite too.
That's right. It must smell pretty good.
It's I mean, bring a spoon. So Joel, is that possible?
Strawberry Hill.
Is what possible? What exactly?
Is it possible?
I can't keep going down this road. Joel, I'm not gonna. Even I have reached my limit. In the words of Vincent Price, oh, you finally reached the bottom.
If you're asking me, is that possible where someone could enjoy kissing Satan?
I'm not. Joel, I'm not.
Whoa.
It was a humorous mental exercise.
Right.
But if you're going to pontificate, then pont.
I'm going to pontificate.
Okay, pont it up, baby.
Okay, when you get it from a religious standpoint, when you get into God and the devil, and you get into Jesus Christ and all that stuff, remember, Jesus didn't come here. When Jesus came to earth, he did not come here to save people from the Roman Empire or lead them into a war. No, that's not what his goal was. He came to save. He came to prepare them to enter the house of the Lord and save who he could. It wasn't about fighting the Roman Empire. That's one of the biggest misconceptions about the life of Christ.
That's cultural. That's cultural nonsense.
Well, I'm just saying.
It's from the point of view of, certain people. He also didn't come to save people from the devil either. He came to
No.
save people from themselves.
Yeah.
If you want
Well,
to get philosophical
okay.
about it,
In the first one, he comes here to save them from themselves.
Right.
But in the second one, he does take on the Roman Empire. In the third one, he does take on the devil. And in the fourth one, he takes on the rather square administration of the school and their apparent views of what's acceptable in a talent contest.
True.
And he
Yes.
wins in all four.
He does.
Uh,
But unfortunately, the fourth one didn't get the proper reviews that it deserved.
It got released in Vermont,
Yeah.
Vermont and Poland,
Yeah.
as like a late Woody Allen movie.
Yeah.
and to get into Satan itself, Satan. When people say Satan, they picture a creature with horns and red skin and all that stuff.
That's the medieval.
Yeah,
version
that's
of
that's
Satan.
right.
That's really,
Right.
That's what that is.
Really, what you're taught is that the devil could take any form in every way. That the devil can make himself appear as your best friend.
Well, that's a more modern philosophy,
Right.
too. The ancient philosophy was the devil looks like anything that the pagans thought was godly.
Okay, yeah. This is the tail on that, with a pointed tip.
Yes.
The story now, Jewel. I'm not making the haha this time. I'm
Yeah.
being serious. The Romans were converting the Britons, and so the easiest way the Romans had to do that was to say, "Hey, your religion is actually our religion, so your priest is going to be our priest, and it's going to be very smooth." That's why we get Christmas around the time of the Saturnalia, around the time of the shortest day of the year, and
Yeah.
Easter's around May Day. All these things have pagan timing just because of agriculture, not because of anything, just the agricultural schedule.
Mhm.
So the priest kind of did an Eddie Haskell. And it's like, okay, Romans, sure, I'm going to do that. And then the minute, they were, halfway to France, hey, it was like, okay, let's party. And we're going to kick it old school. And so his outfit, according to eyewitness testimony and the footage we have, his priestly outfit was red fox, not actor red fox,
Right.
foxskin pants,
Yes.
red, and a wreath. Well, he looked like Edward Woodward in Christmas Carol. He had a wreath around his head, usually with antlers, horns, and maybe hoofs, because he had hoofs on his boots, because he was kind of a cross between an animal and a human, celebrating the natural in everything. Well, a couple hundred years later, the Romans come back and they're like, "Oh my God, we didn't know what the Christmas special was going to be," because that priest was stooping with everything, which was just part of their festival. And the Romans were horrified. They're like, "Oh no, this is not what we discussed." And they go, "So?" And they say, "Well, so we'll talk to the Pope." So they go and talk to the Pope. And the Pope is like, "No." And they say, "Yeah, no, yeah." And so the Pope goes and talks to God. He goes into seclusion and, finally gets through to him.
On his Christmas set.
Yeah, they bring the phone out to God on the golf course or whatever. And,
He
he's
comes
like,
up
"Yeah.
with this for a cross.
Yep. And God said, "They're doing what? Huh. You tell them." Oh, this is good. Even though in the Bible it says that he's a creature of light,
Mhm.
You tell them that Satan looks like the way their priest is dressing up. So they'll stop looking like that. So it's going to be brilliant. I had a vision. A vision, and this is what I came up with. So go tell them that. And they bought it.
Yep.
And that is your history lesson. And that's true. That's as far as we know.
This is often referred to as the Celtic cross, because the Irish and the Celts kept the sun god in the middle of it. The Son of God, the Sun God. So that was a combining element.
Let's talk about that on Star Trek. And the sun The son?
Yeah.
So much for Gene and his atheism.
They kind of come at it from the reverse engineering angle, but yes, they do that.
A little bit. Kirk does say,
yeah,
how many gods? We find the one to be sufficient.
Yes. Yes.
But that one was Lee Majors.
That's
That's
right.
what he didn't reveal. That's what they
$6
worship.
million God.
$6 million God. That's rather paltry nowadays.
I know.
That's why he needs the telethon.
$100 billion God now, or $1 trillion God. Yes.
Well, God. What's you guys' favorite scene in this movie?
Oh, I love the butter churn.
The obscene. What?
I love the butter churn.
Yeah.
Seriously, though, my favorite scene in the movie is the culmination of the betrayal that occurs in that whole prison scene where the priest is fascinated by this woman. He's probably like turned on by her, it seems, but he offers her freedom, but she has to like tell him how to make thunder, how the witchers make thunder. Otherwise, this little girl is going to go to the streets, and it's like, it's an enormous betrayal. It's an enormous act of evil, as it turns out. It starts out as something that's this could be an act of of mercy, and it turns out to be this incredible act of evil. That's my favorite scene in it, because that I think, for me, just my personal observation, the worm turns on that scene really, really hard.
Yeah. Patrick, what's your favorite scene?
I like anything involving that pleasingly plump monk.
Yeah,
he was a major silent comedian in Denmark at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Denmark is, oddly enough, a big comedy town. They have a pretty good sense of humor.
Mm-hmm.
Van Gogh, who's hilarious.
It's tremendous.
The Gary Larson of his age.
Yeah.
You know what he said to Mike Tyson? You gonna eat that? Maybe Mike Tyson said that to him.
Yeah, I think so.
But that's an old one, but I love it. Yeah, I like anything involving him. He's a lot of fun, and he was a big deal in films at the time. He was sort of the like the Fatty Arbuckle of that era, and then you can fill in whatever you think I'm going to say next.
Well,
because we basically know where this is going to go, so I don't even need to say it.
My favorite.
Use a Coke.
Yes, right. He can keep his bottle to himself, right?
Hey, that was untrue.
I know
it was innocent.
I know it was. It was totally untrue.
Yeah, I mean,
Somebody literally had it in for old Roscoe. It was unfortunate.
Yeah, or Julie, you know much about this, about the Fatty Arbuckle case?
No.
Big scandal. So it was maybe New Year's 1922.
He was a major silent film star, a comedian.
Yeah, he was, and he was the partner comedically of Buster Keaton initially. They were a comedy team.
Yes.
And Arbuckle was all kidding aside, was huge as a star. I mean, he was
major star.
Yeah, I mean, he was bigger than Chaplin at the time.
Powerful, rich, the whole 9 yards.
But everybody has weird, all this cultural baggage about heavy people, and how and why. It's kind of like little people. Mm-hmm. We like to link them, size extremes. We like to link with lasciviousness, and I'm not quite sure what that's about. But it's creepier about the people doing the accusations than anything.
Sure.
Anyway, Joel, what I was going to say is that he got accused of raping and killing this starlet named Virginia Rapp with a Coke bottle. And I don't know if Pepsi paid for that or what, but the point is, he was dragged through the mud. The court of public opinion just made up its mind. Oh, there's a fat man. He's definitely guilty of that.
He did it.
Because otherwise, I mean, like, what was it going to be, a Diet Coke if it's a skinny guy? Yeah. So That's in poor taste. But the whole thing was in
The
poor
whole
taste.
thing was in poor taste.
No.
And Fatty was innocent. Roscoe Arbuckle was innocent.
The
And-
woman likely died of like peritonitis from some other cause.
Yeah. And so it was the second big scandalous death after Olive Thomas in Hollywood. And it was the first of real just wanton slander
Yeah,
of
it
somebody.
filled a lot of column space in newspapers and magazines, no doubt.
And Joel, as somebody who is fascinated, as a student of these things, you talked about learning about the Dahlia killings in fifth grade and sort of weird Los Angeles type stuff, and interested in old movies and films of a little bit around this era.
Mm.
This stuff is fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this. To me, there's some weird murders / disappearances throughout. Like Stacey Artis, her disappearance.
Tell me about that. I don't know anything about that.
She was going hiking in the national forest, which she logged her name in, she signed on the book, and her boyfriend was supposed to meet her or whatever. She never made it.
Yeah.
She just disappeared. And that's a thing too. There's a lot of cases like that, but I think the Black Dahlia is real mysterious. Obviously, Zodiac is real mysterious,
The theories about many of these unsolved murders is that they were caused by or committed by serial killers that just never got caught.
Yeah.
Never got caught. And the Black Dahlia may have been one of those. I mean, there was the theory that it was this physician who was a real weirdo, confirmed weirdo, but not confirmed murderer.
But this was of an era where the studio chiefs all had people who were fixers for them, and they would take care of major problems. I think was it Louis B. I think it was Louis B. Mayer had a guy named Eddie Mannix.
Eddie Mannix, yes.
Yeah.
Mannix,
Eddie Mannix was not someone you wanted to mess with ever at all. No, I mean, he was on a Giancana level of problem solving.
He was a fixer that had mob connections and everything else. I mean, he had everything from soup to nuts going for him.
So the story was that for a while, because Eddie Mannix was around forever, I think, that in the 50s, in like the 40s and 50s, do you know who Eddie Mannix is number one? This is just a rumor. I don't know if it's true, but who is rumored like major was Cubby Broccoli. Cubby Broccoli. I don't know if that's true.
Well, Cubby definitely had some pretty shady stuff going on in his past, at least, by the time he was involved with the 007 movies. But he was, you didn't mess with Cubby. That was, his by reputation, at least.
And yet he produced a movie about Oscar Wilde.
Yes, he did.
I mean, that's the thing I love about it. He was like, I think I want to make a movie about Oscar Wilde.
I think it might make some money. Let's do it. Yeah. What is it? Is this his daughter or his niece that runs the
his daughter, Barbara, and his stepson, Michael. When he married, I think, was it Dana? I think it was Dana. I think both Dan Curtis. Wasn't Dan Curtis married to a Dana?
No, Norma.
Norma. Okay. Yeah. Cubby got the Dana, which sounds like a musical number.
It does.
Cubby got the Dana. Yeah.
Right up there with Shapuki.
Dana was already married, or no, she already had a kid,
right.
And she was kind of down on her luck in Hollywood. Things were not going well, and she was riding around with Michael, trying to make him happy. And Cubby at the time was selling Christmas trees, and they just fell in love on the spot.
Yeah,
it's a cool story.
Yep.
Cool. Well, what do you guys make of the John Benet Ramsey case? What do you guys make of that?
That is so perverse. Even before she dies, there's such abusive weird. I mean, for one thing, I just get uncomfortable thinking about it, talking about
the
it.
whole baby doll beauty pageant thing. It's just so weird, and it's also something, by the way, that Irish travelers do. They're
What?
really
Hold on, wait.
Irish travelers. You don't know
I
about
don't know
Irish?
what I don't know what that is.
It's like what used to be referred to as the gypsies, the shadier side of that culture, the side of that culture that pulls scams, construction scams, hot top scams, roofing scams, all that sort of stuff. Travelers do this, and they drive around in huge trucks. They live in certain communities in Indiana and Ohio, and then they go out and they travel around the country and they run these scams.
Wow.
They have these baby doll beauty pageants, and they marry off these kids at the age of like 7 and 8. So yeah, it's
7 and 8.
weird. Yeah, it's weird stuff. Really.
What are their attorneys like 13?
Oh god, yeah.
Like,
Yeah. One of my favorites.
John Benet Ramsey, to me, I still now this may not be true, but I always had this sinking feeling that it was about parental neglect. Like she wasn't murdered, they screwed up, and she died.
oh,
Yeah.
oh God!
Something.
There's just like there is no, not that there's absolutely no tiny glimmer of hope. Like, oh, this was an accident. She fell on the stairs. It's just like not even that.
No.
Fell off a pony.
Kind of screw up. I don't.
It's just like it gets worse and worse and worse.
I mean, the physical punishment went too far. Is what I mean.
Oh God! Which is why you don't engage in any corporal or physical punishment. I mean, just like any other human, it's assault.
Right.
It should be held the same way as it would for an adult.
It's worse because it's a tiny child. I mean.
Oh, I mean, I'm not saying it's not occasionally effective. It's scaring the hell out of them into behaving.
Yeah, but it's worse in terms of what its physical and mental, emotional effects are going to be for some little tiny 8-year-old.
Sure.
Yeah.
But more than that, and I'm a big advocate for child rights, guided, child rights, but child rights, and this is assault.
Yeah.
Just plain and simple. If you did this to an adult, you would be wearing stripes.
Right.
And
yeah. But that's my deal on it. And of course, the parents had some influence in their community, so there was a lot of chicanery going on between them and the investigative law enforcement. It was a mess. It was a mess from day one. They were manipulating things from day one.
Yeah. Well, the Ramsey's attorney told the forensics lab what not to test for.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's the insane part of it.
There's too many. There's some sort of community power stuff.
But Ramsey's attorney is who found that cloth of the Levi slaves.
Mm-hmm.
If you go back to the Ten Commandments, that was Ramsey's, and he had an attorney. His name was Mr. Cohen, and he was very good.
Actually,
my favorite.
Ramsey's, I believe you've met my attorney, Mr. Cohen.
Yes, my favorite scene in this movie is the fact is from the red little lighting to the black and white and back. Really cool stuff.
That effect is great, and also the nighttime effect where it kind of gets tinted blue is really
cool.
That was a big deal back then. I mean, from the beginning, they knew the power of color. It just was expensive and weird to do.
Right.
Before
why you never saw color until like 1929 in a full-length film, I think, something like that, 1930.
I think it was Becky Sharp, and that was maybe just a 2-color process.
Mm-hmm. And there was a like a musical thing that Eddie Cantor did, I think, too, in the 30s, and it was an extravaganza, so they justified the color for that.
Cool. Yeah, they had to. It was. Jewel. This is why so many serious. He loves it. This is why so many serious movies through the late 60s, we're all black and white. It was the medium that was taken seriously, and color was seen as a big novelty. It's almost like, oh, you have to have it in color.
Right.
Yeah.
Ooh, CinemaScope. You know, yeah, you had to, and it was also very expensive. Way.
Kazan doesn't use color.
I actually, when the 2012 Dark Shadows movie was announced, again before we knew what it was, one of my big requests was I hope it was going to be in black or white.
I would certainly do the first half hour in black and white, and then just have it changed to color.
Yeah.
You see these bands coming up to the sets with color cameras unloading, and it turns into color.
That would have been, if you're going to do a comedy,
Yeah,
make it funny and make it pertinent to the show.
Right. Yeah. Do that.
I think these people did not watch Dracula Dead and Loving It, and they should have before doing the movie, the 2012 comedy of Dark Shadows. But it's not funny. It doesn't have much humor.
In the field of Monday Morning Quarterback, they should have gotten Jermaine Clement, if only they had known. And the other guys from Flight of the Conchords who did What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah.
That's a funny vampire movie.
Oh yes, that's hilarious stuff.
It really is.
Yeah.
There's things they could have did to make it more funnier and stuff like that. Because if you're gonna have Barnabas not know what stuff is, like a television and stuff like that, to me you could have even said it even further in the future, like what's the internet? Like
the 73 thing was just arbitrary.
Mm-hmm.
This is the issue with that. No, he wouldn't know what a television was, but he's also not a buffoon.
Right. Exactly.
I just would have him look at it and say, an aquarium. And then
something,
keep walking.
Just keep walking.
This movie, Haxan, 1922, was really good. I mean, I watched it all the way through, and the visual effects on this are really, really good.
They are.
I mean, the production
exposure happening again, and some other really cool stuff. Yeah,
Danny spent some money.
Yeah.
Back to the TV thing, just for a moment. The running gag would be like when they would turn off the TV, Barnabas would be horrified. My God, those poor people are trapped in darkness. and he leans by the television. I will come and get you.
That's right.
Don't let your stature intimidate you. We're in this together.
Right.
That's funny.
Yes, that would have been funny. Absolutely. This film is it is a morality play in the classic sort of silent film style too. You get a lot of this melodramatic, distress and evil approach and things like that were very popular in the style of film acting during that era. If you've ever watched Intolerance, you see or even God forbid that terrible Ku Klux Klan movie that D.W. Griffith did. There is a lot of that stuff going on in that.
Well, it's the acting style.
Right.
And you had, these massive theaters with gas lighting, and you were far away from the actors.
Mm-hmm.
And, there was no such thing as photography for the longest time.
That's
and
right.
So it was a very presentational style.
And,
I mean, Edmund Keane, I think it was either Edmund Keane or one of the Booth boys, had a wig as one of the Shakespeare guys. He pulled a string and the hair would stand up.
Yeah.
And they took that seriously.
Yeah. That was supposed to be shock and surprise.
That was shock.
And shock and awe.
Yeah, Jewel, you want to talk shocking. You wear a wig that stands up when you pull a string when you talk about what was shocking on that episode of Golden Girls or whatever.
Yep.
And there.
Yeah. There you
go. What was our next thing? Oh, it was Blazing Saddles.
Yeah, Blazing Saddles. Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Taggart. I'm cooking up the beans.
Uh-huh.
That's our next thing.
There's a lot of firsts in Blazing Saddles. A lot of really good firsts.
Yes. Is there anything you guys want to add about Haxan before we go?
Haxan.
Haxan.
I don't have anything else. I will say, as we move towards Blazing Saddles, Jewel, I have a thing that you may want to look up, and it's this: look up Black Bart.
Oh,
More
yeah.
importantly, look up the weird story behind Black Bart and the fact that there were several seasons of Black Bart,
Okay.
all for like weird legal reasons that were never meant to be seen.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it's a weird story.
That was a TV series.
Sort of.
Okay. Okay.
Sort of, that never got seen.
Meant to be a
some
TV
stuff is
series.
leaked out,
Yeah.
and it's really weird. But the story behind it's even weirder, but it makes sense. So that's, I think, a good thing to have as part of this, in my opinion. It's easy Wikipedia search.
Was not Evil Roy Slade also a precursor to Blazing Saddles in terms? I think it came out a year or so before Blazing
It did.
Saddles.
It did.
So you got that sort of all-star parody of Westerns starting. You the seed of that sort of thing going on. And that was made for television too.
I'll tell you something I was shocked about with Westerns as I was learning about them. There was actually a assassin who was like 7 foot tall. He dressed like a priest, and he was a fucking mean son of a fucking bitch in the Old West.
What? Okay, Old West. I didn't know this was like someone involved with the ratings board.
No.
And now with the MPAA, I will.
But yeah, I'll check that out. Black Bart before
Black Bart. It's a weird story that's connected to Blazing Saddles.
Yeah.
All right, I'll definitely check it out. Links to Patrick McCray's Dark Shadows Day book about is going to be in the description box. Link to Alan Gallant's YouTube channel, Calling Sport After Dark, is going to be in the description box. The number to hell will be in the description box. If you need
absolutely. It's 666 6666.
The number to heaven will be in the description box if we're allowed to put it. No, but
777.
Yeah, 777. Right. No, but first of all, yeah, this movie was a lot of fun to watch today. But first of all, thanks to Patrick for the recommendation. It was really a good movie. But guys, I'll see you tomorrow for Blazing Saddles.
Peace out.